Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Now today was going to be out in the garden trying to get all those leaves off my planted border so that we can see the bulbs and stuff. That was the plan until I stuck my nose outside the door, and it's probably about 5 degrees out there, and quite honestly I don't need to be out there in that sort of temperature. That work is not that urgent, so I quit. So I'm not going out there working in that sort of temperature. Now I've still got to get it done, and there's a window now. Yeah, this weekend it's going to be cold. As the week progresses the temperature rises, but by the time we get to about Wednesday it's also probably going to rain. Once the leaves are wet the job becomes a no-go because I won't be able to use the leaf blower. So I plan on doing that early next week. When, you know, I mean, the difference between working in 4 or 5 degrees and 10 or 11 degrees is great. You know, one is bearable and the other isn't. So today we're going to change the water on the Disas. Now, last time I did this, I basically incapacitated myself for nearly 2 days. All my leg joints, ankles, knees, everything, calf muscles, everything hurt like hell for 2 days. So I decided at the end of those 2 days we're not doing that again, but I still have to change the water. Now my viewers come up with some good ideas. Now Disa came up with nearly the good idea, but at least it set this off. Now this doesn't get going that often. And he said, looking at my big trays, he said you can get trays like that with a tap on. Well, I've already bought the 2 trays, paying for more. What do I do with these? And then I thought, well, hang on. If you had a water barrel, it would have a tap on the bottom, wouldn't it? Well, surely that would do. And I had to look into it, and I can get a tap, little twisty tap like that, that's got a nut on the inside, and on the outside it's got a washer with a lip that butts up against it. You know, you make the hole in the tray, put the tap through, do the nut up nice and tight, and it would let the water out. Now it doesn't have to get all of the water out, it's just got to get the weight out so that I can lift it. Because at the moment the only sensible place for it to be is on the ground, as you've seen, on the floor. The spare tray is on my workbench, yeah? But I can't leave it on my workbench as a permanent place, because I've still got to transfer the pots into the other tray. And however I've tried to do that, the best way to do it was to have the trays at the same height. And the place that they were at the same height was on the floor, which meant kneeling down. And we've done all that and we're not doing it again. So this is going to make a mess this time. I'm going to get drips on the floor. They will clean up, or they'll evaporate, one or the other, but they are not the big deal. The big deal is keeping this lot in a working order. Otherwise the job in the garden's in jeopardy as well. Yeah, so this is what we're going to do. So I will get a tap for the tray. Now what I do is I transfer the plants from one tray to the other tray, so I'm going to have to get 2. Yeah, because I need to be able to let the water out of both of them. Once the water's out, it's liftable, it's okay, and then I can put it where I like, basically. So that's the plan for today. Talking to my friend Alan at the Wessex Orchid Society, when I got my first couple of Disas, I was at Burnham's for their summer festival, I think it might have been, and I got my first 2. And my friend Alan got a couple as well. Now, talking to him at the meeting last week or whenever it was, doesn't time fly? He said his are growing like mad. Now mine aren't growing like mad, but I don't know what he means by growing like mad. I'd have to see them. But you do have to bear in mind, in the family of Disa hybrids, I still had some in bloom in October. You also get those that bloom early in spring. Now if he's got that type, then they would be growing now, getting ready to grow their flower spikes and bloom in spring. So whatever. Anyway, so today's video is you looking at the back of me, basically. I'll talk about what I'm up to as I go. I'll bring the camera in there. Can't see what on earth is going on at the moment. Drop that down a bit. Something like that. You can just about see the tray on the floor. Yeah, and the tray I'm working on. And then I'll show you what I'm doing, and then I'll cut the camera off because I'm getting a bit low on my battery. And you only need to get the general idea, and then I'll switch it back on again when I'm nearly finished. But the idea is making a mess, and instead of being down on my hands and knees, we will be bending. And to do that, that needs to come out of my way, like that. And I just pick up 2 pots with one hand, like that, and let them drip into the tray. Now all I've done is bend my knees slightly. My back's not bent. Now okay, there's 24 pots in this tray, so I'm going to have to do this 12 times. But by letting them drip as much as possible, serves 2 purposes. It means I'm not going to get so many drips on the floor. And secondly, I'm getting rid of the old stale water. And then we just swing those across like that. And then on to the next 2. Now once I've got the first 2 done, I'll have freed up a bit of space in the tray, which means I won't have to be so accurate with the drips. You see what I'm getting at? Because at the moment, the place for the drips is just where these 4 pots were. So I put them in the replacement tray in the same order. Now when I first set them up in the tray, there was a logic to the order they were in. I haven't got a clue what it is, I've totally forgotten, but I'm sticking to it. Let me move on to the next 2. Let them drip. So I've got a much bigger space to let them drip. What I'm desperately trying not to do is drip on the plants. I'm dripping back in the tray. I don't want to get the plants wet. It could encourage some rot, as this is old stale water. See, they're staying in the same order in their pairs. Oh. And this is working well because at the moment there's no strain on my knees or my ankles or my calf muscles, because all I'm doing is standing here. And the 2 pots that I'm holding are not heavy. And the crouch that I'm doing to pick them up is next to nothing. So anyway, you get the idea. I will now complete that until they're all in here, and then I'll come back on camera again. Okay, so that's got all the plants into the spare tray. Now this is still heavy, but that's my workbench. This is a workbench. They're both the same height. I'm stood up straight with my back straight, because this is still heavy even though the water's not in it now. And all I've got to do is carry it gently over to here. I was just going to say, and hope this workbench over here is strong enough. I knew this would be. Right, so we still have the problem of that tray down there is full of water. Yeah? And last time I tried lifting it, I wasn't happy. But I'm going to see if I can pick it up and get it up on here, and then we can use a jug to get the water out and make it a lot lighter, because I need to get it into the kitchen to get it to the sink to give it a wash. Yeah, just rinse it through and give it a wipe. So we'll see if we can lift it. The problem is if it slops, that's an awful lot of water on the floor. So can I lift it up straight? It's not as heavy as the one I've just lifted. It's the fact that it's sloppy water. And if it slops, it's going to make an awful lot of mess. Damn it. Oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought. And then I get one of my water bowls down there. The tray overhanging it. And we get a jug. pick up one end. And get the water out. Do it a bit at a time. And again, there's very little bending. I'm just gently bending my knees to save bending my back. And I could do this in 2 stages. I could have a rest in between, but at the moment I feel fine. Once I've got enough water out and this tray is manageable, I'll pick it up and tip the rest in out of the corner of the tray. But if I try and do that, if I get it wrong, it'll spill over the floor. And then I shall have to get my welly boots out, won't I? Which I don't want to do. So the idea is to get a fair bit of the water out, leaving enough that I can just lift it up gently and tip it. We're about there now, but rather than put the rest of the water in this bowl and then have to take that bowl to the kitchen to empty it, in the summer months it will go out in the garden somewhere, but at the moment it's going to go down the kitchen sink. If I put that water in there, that becomes heavy and I've got to get it out to the kitchen without spilling it. It also becomes full. So it's half full at the moment, so I can go and empty that and we'll be back to sort the tray out. Right, that's emptied that. Now we should be able to lift this and carefully tip the rest into the bowl. Job done. Yeah. Right, so that now needs a wash. This will need a wash as well, prior to it being used again for watering other orchids, because that's the one I mix my feed up in. I need it clean. So we'll go and get these 2 clean, and then this one effectively gets dried and put back in the lounge for storage. That one then goes on the floor, and when it's on the floor we add the water. So you can tell, those that might notice, I'm a bit puffed. That's the heart problem, yeah? And strictly speaking, it's not really the heart problem, it's the tablets that I take for the heart problem that just refuse to allow me to call for extra energy when I want it. And although this doesn't seem like much, most people would think, good, what are you talking about, you've hardly done anything. With this condition, that is a fair bit. And it's like, you know, when I try and do the gardening, I might well have to stop and give it a rest. Anyway, this is only done every sort of 10, 12, 14 days, something like that. It's not a big deal. There's still a little tray to do with 6 pots in, but that's manageable. I can lift that with or without the water. So, right. So, yeah, I'll be back. What I want to do is I want to pick a couple of pots and do like a close-up look of them. I'll do it before we put the water in while they're on the tray. And then next time when I empty it, we'll have a look at those same 2 pots again, because I don't look at these, they're on the floor and they don't need watering. They need the water changed, like I said, every couple of weeks in effect. So I don't notice whether they're growing or not, but if I film a couple of them, then we can have another look at the tray next time I change the water. So anyway, let's get cleaned up. Right, that's the shot of the whole tray, and I think the easiest thing I can do is just go in quite close and go up and down each row, and then we've got a record of what each pot looks like. Yeah? And we can do a direct comparison next time. I mean, there is a lot of brown tips on the plants. There's no point in me worrying about it because there's not a lot I can do about it, but at some point they will probably get trimmed off. Now, as you can see, some pots have got much smaller plants in, and some have got a mixture of small plants and larger plants. The larger plants are the ones that we should get flowers on, we should get blooms. I mean, if you look at this pot, there's not really any large ones, but not all the Disas were large plants, not even the ones in bloom. and some of them were quite large. I mean, that's a good bit to look at. That plant's growing, or it looks as though it is, so we'll stop on that one next time. That's got a new leaf coming, as has this one. So yes, they are growing. But then, because I don't look at them often, those could have been like that since I repotted them. I wouldn't know. But as I said, we'll just tick along. I've got to end on a bad one. There's not many plants in there and they don't seem to be doing much good. But nonetheless, that one has got a new leaf. So there we go. That's what the tray looks like. The other 6, I'll go and point the camera at them. No, I won't bother actually. 4 of the pots have got no green in them at all. I think they've failed. And certainly some of the people I spoke to at Burnham's, when I was trying to find if the guy who sold me these was actually there or not, none of us could remember his name. So it was difficult. Is, what's name here? Who do you mean? Well, you know, the Disa guy. And one of them looked at me and said, well, I'm the Disa guy. And I thought, well, you're not the one I want. Anyway, that was a bit of fun. I did eventually find the email, so I have got his name now. But, yeah, some of them said, don't bother with species, they're too much trouble and they don't tend to last long. Try and go for known hybrids, bold, you know, good sized blooms, good bright colours and strong plants as a consequence. So that was the idea. But yeah, 4 of the pots in the other tray haven't got any green. That doesn't mean to say that the whole pot is dead. There could be some dormant tubers, and they may come up later. So I keep the pots in the tray simply because if I didn't have the pots in the tray, it would take a lot more water, wouldn't it, to bring the tray up to the level. But that tray is not doing well. None of them are. But I'm pretty sure that 4 of those pots are species. So that will go back to what the guy said. He says bending down when I'm not supposed to. Anyway, so that's as they are and a bit of a closer look, and then we'll revisit them not next time I change the water, the time after that. So they'll have had 3 or 4 weeks, and then hopefully in that period of time we can notice some changes. So that will be the idea. Anyway, this battery's about to die now. Anyway, see you next time. Bye for now.